your days. Okay, so here we go. You care about your career. You do because you're here and you're with us today. You care about your career and you're thinking, to what degree am I responsive and to what degree can I plan it? Can I kind of, plan it? So my suggestion to you is to work on the planning it. Which works better for you? This kind of planet? Yeah, I'll do this kind of planet. All right, so here we go. You're here because you care about your career. My question to you is, when you're planning your career, do you want it to be like a roller coaster with the loop-de-loops? Or do you want it to be like a runway? That was a pretty good R, Senia. Good job. Runway. Do you want your career to be like a roller coaster or a runway? Today, I'm presenting to you a 2x3 matrix for thinking about your career so that it's more planful and more runway-like. Here's the bottom line. I coach a lot of people who think about, hey, I'm in this role, I'm in this place, but how do I get to where I want to be in a year or in 2 years? How do I not keep doing the things I don't want to do? And how do I start doing the things that I do want to do? So I'm going to show you what the traditional way of thinking about this problem is, and then this new fancy schmancy 2x3 framework. The traditional way of thinking about this question of career planning is to think about 3 items. Now, these are still important, so I'm not poo-pooing this. Hi, good to see you here. I'm not poo-pooing this method, but it is the traditional way, which is to think about your geography, industry, and role. That's very important, and you will probably still likely need to do it, but we'll do it in a slightly different way. So traditionally, you would think about, what geography do I want to be in? That is a little bit out the window these days. There is more and more remote. You can be doing a lot more remote. So geography is a little less important. Industry, certainly. And then what role do I want to have? What do I want to be doing? So I say take that and kind of put a little bow on it, and that's good. And let's try this other way. So I think about careers as something that you can plan. You can plan that runway. You can plan when you're at the beginning of the runway, when you're speeding up, when you're taking off. You can plan that. So if that is true, if my hypothesis here is true, then let's consider this method. This is the what, whom, how, and at 2 different times, in the now and the later time. What do I mean by this? You're going to care the direction your career moves in terms of the what, whom, and how. The what. The what, and I'll actually ask you to think very specifically about the what in terms of what jazzes you up. You may be familiar with the Marie Kondo book that's about joy, about tidying up, but the question she asks is, does this bring me joy? And for you, in the what and what you want to be doing, I actually encourage you to consider my friend and colleague Tom Rath's book, which is this book. This is an Amazon website for Life's Great Question. Discover how you contribute to the world. And this is by Tom Rath. Tom's philosophy is, instead of thinking about where am I passionate and what am I only excited about, only compared to where do I contribute? Where can I, with what I have, my skills, my strengths, where can I contribute the most? And he calls that Life's Great Question. Wonderful book. I've read it several times. Great, great book. So the what in our little handy dandy, fancy schmancy 2x3 matrix, the what is what jazzes you up. How can you contribute? What would you want to be doing from morning to evening? Now, with a grain of salt, I know there are going to be things that we're doing that are not as exciting within what we want to be doing. But what really jazzes you up? How can you think about creating an impact, having a real role in that area? That's the what. And I encourage you, now we're talking only about the now column. Think through it in the now. In the now, what is exciting for me? And then whom? A lot of people discount this question or don't even think about it. I super encourage you to think about the whom. Whom would you like to work with? I'll give you an example. A very close friend of mine is a mathematics professor. And one of the biggest things she says to me is about her profession is she loves her colleagues. She's a huge fan of the mathematicians she works with. So I want you to think about, who is that whom for you? Whom do you get excited by speaking to, by brainstorming with? My friend David Paulet says a wonderful thing and has told me for years. He says, if you really want to start to get to know someone and spend more time with them, find a way to work with them. Who are the people you most want to work with? What are they like? What are their characteristics? What field are they in? What do they do? How could you work with them? So we've got the what and we've got the whom. And then the how. So the how it's things like, do I want to work remotely? Do I want to work more in groups? Do I want to lead sessions? Do I want to be in brainstorming sessions? So it's anything that could be about the how. So hey, check mark to us. We've just done 3 of the 6 items: the what, the whom, and the how in the now. In the now, what's exciting, what jazzes us up, where can we think about our contribution? Again, putting up this book by Tom Rath. The what, the whom do we want to be working with, and the how. What is our how? What works for us as a how? And now I encourage you to look ahead, because again, we're growing this runway. We're not thinking about the now only and thinking about our career. And this is relevant whether you work by yourself, you're in a large company, you're in a family business. Your career, it can answer these questions of what, whom, and how. So now let's move over to the next column. Let's move over to the later column. What do you want to be doing later? What will jazz you up? How will you make contributions in that what? That's the what. The whom is you may be working with a group of people or a certain kind of people that focus on certain things. What do you want to move forward a little closer to? I'll give you something that I see pretty regularly here in Silicon Valley, which is people who start off as engineers, end up wanting to go into product management, sometimes product marketing, product management. So that engineering to product management, and the other way around. People who started off as engineers went to product management, but then really want to be more engineers. So just look for that. What is that what? Where can you really contribute in the future, even regardless of where you are now? And just a tip, because I want to give you small things throughout this. If you are at a company, an established company, and you are, let's say, an engineer and you want to go into product management, I highly suggest, and this is based on a friend of mine who has taught product management classes for years at many institutions, I highly suggest that you go within the same company from being an engineer to being a product manager. Why? Because at that company, you're already established, your reputation, your work ethic. So it'll be easier to move there than to move to a different company that doesn't already know you as a super engineer. So we've talked about that little what, moving from the now to the later. Let's talk about the whom. Perhaps you're working with people who are much more broad picture on what they're working on, but you actually like to go down and narrow. My thesis advisor in my PhD program told me that there is a common conception of people as lumpers versus slicers. So lumpers are, I'm a lumper. Just a confessional here, I'm a lumper. Lumpers are people that bring a lot of content together from a strategy point of view or something like that. Splicers are people who go in and just get really narrow and dissect things down to get to the real truth. Both are valuable. So where are you? Given whom you work with now, whom would you like to work with later? And that actually gets a little bit into the how as well. When we do coaching with people, we super encourage people to take some assessments like the VIA Strengths Assessment or Strengths Finder, and these are all findable online, and some other assessments just in terms of what how fits for you. So you've looked a little bit at the what, whom, and how of now, and now we've talked a little bit about your what, whom, and how in the future. What else do I want to add for you and for this? I'll just add a couple of ideas. I'll add a step-by-step idea and a consistency idea. It's funny, I mentioned him already in this phone call, in this broadcast. I was just on a phone call with a few coaches, including David Paulet, and he was mentioning how that step-by-step, that really idea can really turn a mountain into a molehill. If you've got that huge mountain, when you break it down, when you can see the things going up to it, you can take those incremental things and incremental steps. So as you are thinking, as you're planning your runway, and as you don't want it to be a roller coaster, as you're thinking about these things, how can you move from the what now to the what's later? You know what jazzes you up now. How can you move a little bit towards the what later? And I really mean incremental steps. How can you have a conversation with someone in your industry, but in a slightly different field that you want to move to? How can you reach out to them on LinkedIn, somewhere else, through a friend? So these step-by-step things are about you keeping the goal in the future and just moving there. That's one thing. And the other thing I want to give you as something in your background is your resume can move as you move over time. So your resume today may reflect the work that you've done, but your resume even 6 months from now may reflect that same work with the lens of where you want to be going. And if you were doing, for example, if you were doing operations in your current job, if you were doing both operations and strategy in your current job and you want to do strategy in your next job, don't put the operations things on your resume. You don't need, if your strategy things are cohesive and you've done a lot, just put those there. You don't need to put those things for which people would likely hire you if you don't want to do them again. So be a bit thoughtful about that runway, your what, whom, and how now, and your what, whom, and how later. And just be thoughtful about planning that step by step and planning what it is you want to convey about the work you've done that leads you to the work you want to be doing. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the 2x3, what, whom, how, and now later framework for planning your career, not like a loop-de-loop roller coaster, but like that runway. It's been great being with you. I'm completely open to questions. As I often say at the very end of a session like this, what are your takeaways so far? What takeaways do you have about yourself in your career? What do you think you can do today as a step-by-step? Do you want to run out and grab this book on contributions? What do you want to do between now and let's even say tomorrow or now and next week? You came here because you're thinking about career. What do you want to do between now and the next time we see each other virtually in this way? All right, so let me give you a moment to put down your takeaways and the things you want to do. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, so you all are saying step by step. That's what you're taking away. Go for it. Take that step by step. Go forth. Have a wonderful time. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. We're here every day, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific. Be well. Be well, be well.